I love the idea of writing. I love the idea of creating. It's I get such enjoyment out of that.
The 2018 Oscar ceremony was a huge surprise for fans of short animated films. One of the most renowned NBA players, Kobe Bryant, who had never been nominated for an Oscar before, won an award for his short animated film, Dear Basketball. The film is currently offline for numerous reasons following the basketball legend passing away, but the story he told in it will remain with us forever, and here's why. In 2015, Kobe wrote a poem, Dear Basketball, that told the story of a 6-year-old boy who would roll up his father's socks in a ball and toss it into an old garbage can in the corner, pretending that he was a famous basketball player. The poem was written and narrated by Kobe, but the animation was created by none other than Glen Kean, the man behind Disney's most successful 2D animated movies. Kobe entered Kean's tiny studio and was just stunned.
He just looks around and goes, "This is it. This is perfect."
He had all the storyboarding, beautiful storyboarding, and hand drawn. It was like the purity of the art. I was like, I'm in heaven.
While the story Kobe and Glen were telling in the film is pretty simple and straightforward, that's precisely why it's so attractive. When Kean was working on a scene of a 6-year-old Kobe playing next to his grown-up version on a court, he was unexpectedly struck with the realization that this isn't a story about basketball. It's a story about the little 6-year-old dreamer that's inside all of us. It's a universal story.
It was at that moment that I realized this film is so much more than what it appears.
Accepting the award, Glen said, "Whatever form your dream may take, it's through passion and perseverance that the impossible is possible."
It was very important to be hand-drawn, because the film itself is the fabric of it, the building of a dream you can't skip steps, right? You're crafting it.
Kean's passion is handmade animation, and unfortunately, this medium is dying out. Though there were other great short animated films that perhaps had some deeper allegories and metaphors than Dear Basketball, it's the unique, handmade animation that made it stand out from the crowd. The 1980s and early to mid-90s, nicknamed the Disney Renaissance, were a real revival for Disney as a studio and a brand. From the hand of Glen Kean, we got some of their biggest hit movies. The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, and Tarzan all came to life from paper to the big screen. And while Disney was still shocked by The Lion King's immense success, grossing $968.5 million in 1994, the 2000s saw an inevitable decline in hand-drawn animation. Pixar and its 3D animation outflanked Disney and forged a new path. The success of Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles were a thorn in Disney's side. And that's not to mention the huge success of Shrek and DreamWorks Animation Studio. The only thing Disney saw in common between these successes was the innovative 3D animation, and quickly grasped what they had to do to stay relevant in a changing market. Computer animation for sure has its perks, especially in terms of business development. It's much cheaper than hand-drawn projects. 3D animation doesn't require such huge teams of animators and is much more flexible to changes. Unfortunately for hand-drawn animation, lots of decisions have to be locked in much earlier, and it becomes almost impossible to make any adjustments to the story of the characters at a certain point. Pixar were much faster in terms of production, and their focus was on consistently high-quality films, with well-timed and efficiently managed production cycles. Meanwhile, Disney were cutting corners to make their films faster in order to compete, all the while pumping out poor-quality straight-to-video sequels to inflate franchise profits. All of this hurt the Disney brand, while Pixar's image went from strength to strength. More than management though, Disney didn't realize the cornerstone of Pixar's success was its storytelling. Of course, 3D animation brought some innovations that captured an audience's attention, but the key difference between the two animation houses was simply the art of storytelling. Pixar had much more complex and original storylines that went further than the same handful of fairy tales. More than that, there was finally some backstory to the protagonists. A villain in Pixar, in contrast to Disney, is actually a villain for a reason. They all have believable motivations and a backstory. Pixar was a breath of fresh air, not only in terms of animation, but also in terms of the varied range of stories they told. So when Disney tried to go back to its roots with 2D animation in The Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh, and ultimately failed, they chose to blame the animators, leading to them eventually winding up their 2D animation studio in 2013. While the movies were not a total flop, they just didn't gross as much as Disney's other historically renowned movies, and Disney believed they had identified the cause. Disney's first 3D princess movie, Tangled, was a huge success in the box office and looked fantastic. It's no wonder Disney saw it as part of an emerging trend and decided to part ways with 2D animation for good. Nowadays, Disney has made 2D the box office's biggest enemy, and there's no chance for hand-drawn animation to survive. Disney has captured 33% of the total US film market, including their former rivals, the aforementioned Pixar. One more problem with 2D animation is that an adult audience still sees it as a bit childish, while 3D reminds them more of a film rather than a cartoon. So Kobey and Glen Kean created a testament not only to Kobe's love for basketball, but a majestic reminder of how beautiful and elegant the world of 2D animation can be.
It's hand animation, very classical style that I grew up with. It was really a chance for me to live my own dream as an artist.
It's a simple but sophisticated reminder about the little dreamer living inside each of us, and the great achievements we can accomplish when we let ourselves dream and hope like kids.